This is a video about the improvements that I made to the Create Documents page. One of the most noticeable of the improvements was the page load time. In the corporationdocs.com site, the Create Documents had the slowest of all the page load times, and that's saying quite a bit because the application in general was very slow. I will open up my Create Documents, and you can see the page loads extremely quickly. And this is due to the fact that I loaded my page completely differently. Right here you can see all these folders contain documents and subfolders, and overall there's like over 1,000 document nodes. And what they would do is they would load all the document nodes all at once, like over 1,000 document nodes would be loaded into the page all at once. And I think that that's the primary reason why that page would load so much more slowly than all the other pages. And in my case, you can see it took like 7 or 8 seconds for the page to load. It was totally annoying to work with. And in my case, you can see right here, corporate organization, open it up, it's completely empty. All these folders and subfolders are loaded onto the page completely empty, so it's like a small fraction of what they were loading onto the page. But then I press this, it expands. That's Ajax. I'm using vanilla Ajax in that instance, and that's why my page loaded so much more quickly. All these folders are still empty, but this one, only the data that they wanted is shown. And next, I will show something about their page. You can see over here on the right-hand side, it's missing the letterhead, seal, and notary, and whether or not to include it in the documents. And you can see right here when he opens up the officer's authority to make purchases, right there. Every single time you would open up the questions for the document, there'd be a notary statement, a seal, and a letterhead. And I think that's very bad. It's bad user experience. It's not very bad user experience. The 7 or 8 second page load time is very bad user experience, but this is bad user experience. Every single time they want to create a document, they have to go in and choose whether or not they want to do these. And it's going to be, I mean, that's pretty extraneous to have to do that every single time, especially if it's a new employee who's using this. They might forget to do the letterhead or the seal, and it's more likely to be error prone as well as kind of a hassle. And in my case, not only do I have these on the side to include separate from the document, but they can actually set things to have that automatically checked by default. Like I'll choose this one. That's automatically checked. And it's automatically checked because up here, edit letterhead, edit seal, and edit notary, you're supposed to insert the images up here that'll be included in the document. And right here, include letterhead in documents by default. I created this in order to make it easier on them. They can decide to automatically insert a letterhead into every single document. If they don't want to, they can do it this way. Or, of course, they can manually uncheck it also. And another thing is, even when they would insert even when you check it in their system that you want to okay, officer's authority to make purchases. Even when you say that you want to insert the images into their documents, the images would fail to insert. And this was because they were using a data type in order to save the images, and then they ran into problems inserting the images from a blob data type into the documents. And I mean, it's perfectly understandable that that would create a problem. You're inserting that image into HTML, and it's inserted as binary text, which means that inserting that as the blob data type into a document would result in like a text string that's usually going to be larger than a lot of the documents, and it makes no sense to do that. What I did is I saved the image to storage on the server, and it's kind of weird because they would save the documents themselves, like PDF documents or docx documents, onto the server, and then they would save the images, which are far smaller and take up far less space, and there's only going to be like 1 or 2 images per company. They would save that to the database, and it makes no sense. I mean, this isn't Dropbox.com or something. It's a website for creating documents, and what I do is I save the documents as HTML to the database, and then I save the images as image files on the server. And as you can see, I will create the same doc. I'll start out by finishing theirs, going through theirs first, show the difference. You can see the difference between theirs and mine, but they never really got the ability to inserting the images into the documents, and there's a problem with that prev button also. But what would happen is when you press the prev button to go to the previous question, it would erase all the questions afterward. And they were using some weird jQuery plugin called colorbox.js, and it ran into all kinds of problems, including that prev button. It was interpreting each question in the modal as a different page, so it ran into all kinds of problems with data being overwritten, and something else I'll get into right here, right there. I'll get into that, how that was happening with their stuff. But first, I'm going to show this. Shows mine. I don't think it's the same document, but you can see the overall thing. You see the images got inserted into mine. Didn't, and theirs couldn't insert images. But another thing is this right here. When there were questions with large amounts of data, like lists of employees and like officers and stuff, there would be problems with the request URL being too long, and that's what would happen. I'll give an example here. This is going to run kind of long, but it's supposed to contain a whole bunch of the improvements that I made, and minutes of first meeting of directors. This one has quite a bit to it. And that's why they get a request URL too long. Is I'll just place some dummy text into this, but you can see the stylistic differences too between, like this list of employees would result in this error on their system, and in mine it doesn't get that. And what was happening was they were using GET requests in between, and that didn't just happen when they tried to create the document. The second it got to a question where there was like a long list of like officers or something, it would get this error: request URI too large. They were using GET requests with the URL in between the questions. And what I do is I have one single div right here. I have one single thing with everything right here. Question modal LD, question modal content, and you can see question content. All my questions are in one single thing, and they would have different for each one, and I just use display block and display none in between the questions. And then when it gets to the document, I actually do need to run a request to the PHP to fill in the document. And what I did was I created a table that would contain temporary information, and all of the questions get saved to the table temporarily. And then I would use a jQuery Ajax to insert all the data into the table temporarily, then transmit it into this form, and then it gets deleted. And I'll show how this text is editable also on the very first day of February. And you can see right there. And another thing is I'll save it right here. The document was saved. And I will go to the Save Documents page. And one of the problems with theirs was they had actual documents here where there was like an extension there, like .docx or whatever. This is all HTML saved into the database. And let's see, minutes of first meeting of directors, open document. Yep, right there, it saved my edit. And that's pretty much the end of this demonstration showing the various, there's a lot more improvements that were made besides that, but those are the major ones.